you're coming here for some fast-paced excitement, you've come to the wrong place. I'm going to do some demos tonight. One of the things for the next assignment, I'm having my students break down an existing 2D platformer or 2D side scroller and break down what makes that level tick, the ramping of difficulty, the variety, how they teach game mechanics, etc. And then I'm giving them 2 weeks to convert that or make a 2D Unreal Engine gray box level inspired by that. One of the things I don't want my students to focus on is too much time building out blueprints, building out that new mechanic, because honestly, in 2 weeks, that can take a lot of time. And what I really want my students to focus on is the environment and the feel and the mood of the actual space within that side scroller. So I did create some parameters. I'm going over how to make simple moving platforms, some simple enemies, just so they can prototype that in quickly and get to the meat of level design, which is building out the space. Okay, so we're going to start out by creating a new project. We're going to go to games. We're going to start a new game in our development journey. The choices here are side scroller, which uses 3D assets, a 2D side scroller, which uses obviously 2D assets or sprites. But we're just for the sake of this one, just to keep everything simple on a 2-week project, because really students could kind of overscope so easily on this. We're just going to do the 2D side scroller and click next on that bad boy. As far as blueprints or C++, we're going to choose blueprints. Performance and quality on your project, I'm just going to leave it on maximum quality because my computer does pretty decent with it. But if you have a lower end computer, really you can set it to scalable 3D or 2D and it will be less CPU intensive, kind of makes life easier for you. When choosing desktop or console, we'll just stick with desktop and we'll just leave the starter content in because why not? And then we are going to name this project. We'll name it Side Scroller Test 002. Create project and then let that project create itself. A lot of times I tell my students, start with paper, kind of draw some of the ideas. If it's inspired from a game, even drawing out some of the existing levels within that game and trying to like do a recreation of them is actually a great way to start generating ideas for this. But we'll show you what they kind of kick you off with in your starter content here to cut out all the boring stuff. Okay, so right off the bat, you see here's the text right here for the side scrollers template. I love it when my students leave this in and all you see is like side scroller template and then these same exact existing blocks that come in standard with that template. And then they'll add a couple more things and say done. But no, you don't want to do that. So let's check out right off the bat. Let's just hit play on this, and I'm going to grab my old controller, and you can see I'm going to click on the screen. You can see you just run around. You have everything set up. This is everything we need to get started. He jumps. One of the things I wanted to point out, and this, look at this jump too. You like barely make it. So when you're talking about metrics, that's fine. If you jump even too late, you're not going to make that jump. So it's not the most friendly jump ever. But you see the jump height, the head goes kind of just above that. So underneath here, that's not bad. So that's actually not a bad jump height. You kind of almost hit your head on it, but not quite. But when it starts you out, this is what you see. And we kind of talked about in a good 2D game, you kind of want to have everything, you at least want to have some idea of what the level's about. And so if you look at like, we've been playing Metroid Dread, and the Samus character is actually pretty small on the screen. And that's so you have enough visual indicators to kind of have an idea of where you want to travel to in the game. So I think this general setup right here, this camera view, is pretty good if it's kind of a linear game where you're just moving kind of left and right. Maybe you're jumping over a couple things as you approach it. But for something where you're maybe building some puzzle platforming, maybe you want to pull the camera out a little bit more. We're gonna create a couple simple objects in Unreal Engine. We're gonna make a simple moving ping pong platform and a simple enemy. For a level design class I teach. So what I'm going to do here, first of all, we're going to go over how to adjust the camera. We're up here in the world outliner. You can either look for this character, which is the side scroller character. You can either go into the content browser and start typing side scroller character, which he's right down here, or it's kind of handy if you select on him in the viewport. Up here under side scroller character, you can click on edit side scroller character, and you can see it'll open up your editor. This is the event graph, which is pretty simple. His controller, basically there's a jump connection, and then there's a move left or right connection. So when you look at the third person character, there's a lot more movement built into that. But this one is relatively simple. So we're going to go to the viewport here. I'm going to minimize the screen a little bit. But you can see within the viewport that they have the camera positioned over here to the side. And so to actually move that camera back a little bit, to where it's framed maybe a little bit more preferably, we can actually just slide that camera straight back away from the character, and that will change the camera view when we play it. So I'm just gonna hit compile and save. And now up here, if we hit play, you can see now the camera is much further back from me. And I like this because right now I can start to see some of the platforming to the left, to the right, up above. I can start to see the top of a platform up top. It gives me a lot more indication of where to go within this level. And especially if I do start creating some creative platforming, as much as it's kind of a bummer that I can't see my player as closely as I could before, it's kind of nice that he's a little bit further back. He's actually kind of centered on the screen. I think I might actually want to, I'm gonna leave him right where he is. Here's one of the things I'm gonna point out really quick. Is look at this. They set me up in the template as just this big massive box. I actually hate it. I hate that there's so much negative space in the background of this without anything like buildings or anything kind of parallaxing behind it. So one of the things you can do really quick before we make the platforms is actually, I'm just going to grab this back wall here. If I hit F, it'll focus in on it. And I'm just going to move it forward. I'm just going to grab this thing, slide it forward a little bit. And watch how much this changes the feel, like immediately. This feels much more different. I actually prefer kind of like this starting point. And I kind of wonder even in so we can make that taller or shorter. But actually, I wouldn't even mind changing the color of the background to make the platform stand out even a little bit more. So we're just going to mess with it a little bit. Okay, just because I know I'm going to use some materials in a moment, I'm just going to create a default material. Yeah, I'm going to change the color on this without going and doing anything crazy in my content. So let's create a new material. And we'll call this matte background color. Okay, there we go, matte background color. And we will quickly just create a simple color on here, using a constant 3 vector because they're fun. So I was thinking about just doing this like a light blue or something. We'll see how weird this looks. But I want it to stand out and create some contrast with the platforms. And so we'll hit OK. Bada bing, bada boom. Got you all saved up and nice. So we're going to select this cube material. Instead, we'll use matte. There we go. Matte background color. Okay, so that's kind of creative. Let's see how that looks just really quick. All right, so we have, it's a little bit different. Makes everything stand out a little bit more. I think eventually I'd like to change the ground color as well. I like how it sets you up, kind of frames you out with this like simple little platforming section. Reminds me of some of the, like when I was creating like Smash Brothers play sets for Disney Infinity. We set up some simple little scenarios like this that the player could just set out and create a quick little Smash Brothers setup. Needless to say, we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a platform because that's what we came here for. We're already, 40 minutes into the stream, and I haven't even gotten to the meat and potatoes yet. So right here in the content, we're going to create a blueprint class. This is going to be the start of our platform here. And we're going to click on actor. We're going to call this, we'll just call it object platform to make it simple. And this is going to be the start of our platform. So right off the bat, I'm just going to throw this into my scene. I like to throw things into my scene just to see the scaling of it. And now as we play with this object, double click on it to edit it, we can kind of see what it looks like in the scene. Okay, so here we want to create a platform. So we're just going to create add component and create a cube. Here we go, beautiful cube. You can see it pop open right in the scene. And we're gonna scale this down a little bit. So we wanna squish it down on the Z axis. I think Z's up, right? In Unreal. Let's try 0.2, see what that looks like. 0.2 looks pretty good. And this by default, if you look at the platform, since this is a side scroller, it doesn't need to be really deep. But for my platform, that is a little bit narrow. So I'm going to actually set it right against this block to kind of see where it fits in. And if I hit play, you can see that is kind of hard to land on. That's going to be miserable to try and land on in game as a single cube shape. So I want to stretch it out just a little bit. So let's go back into here under the platform section, and under, I think it's this one, we'll hit 2. And we can immediately see, yes, that stretches it out a little bit wider. So let's test this puppy again. So a little bit better. I think we could go longer, but that feels landable, like it's something we could land on. So we'll stick with that for now. So now we need to make this thing move. We want it to ping pong back and forth. So what we're gonna add on here, add component. I'm trying to remember everything I need to do, but I think we need to add an interpolation component. There we go. Interp to movement. So we're going to interpolate some movement on this bad boy. And over here, if we select that interp mode, you've got, let's see, scroll down. You should have some types in here. Categories, default duration is 1, teleport type, 1 shot, between type, behavior type. So it could either interp 1 time, or we can adjust it. We actually want this thing to ping pong. So it will ping pong back and forth, bada bing, bada boom. That's what we're going for. Just to make a simple moving platform. The other thing we could do is we could create an animation for it, but I find this is much easier because we can create 2 locator points so that we can choose the distance that we want it to travel, and then the duration for how long we want it to travel to from X from the two distance. So we're gonna hit compile on that. We've got the interp to movement. Now we're gonna go into our construction script. And as it's constructed, it's going to build some components for us to use. So from that construction strip, we want to grab this interp to movement, bring that down. And we want to create a set control points. Let's see if it comes up. Actually, I think before we even do this, we want to do something else. I want to create a couple variables. I'm not sure the order that I need to create these, so this is part of the fun. So I'm gonna hit create one first. We're gonna look for a vector because this is the position that that we want this thing to move back and forth from, and we'll just go ahead and create one more variable too, and we're gonna name this location 1 and location 2. Location 01, and this bad boy will be location 02. And something we want to check off when we create these location variables is we want them to be instance editable. So if we create instances of this actor, we can go in and they can have unique variables in here. And then we want to click on show 3D widget so we can see it in our play space, which is kind of cool. So we're going to call this instant editable. Add the 3D widget. So actually now if I go into here, let's see if they appear for me. They may not appear yet, but we'll see if they do. Okay, so I can't, I haven't compiled. There we go. So I just compiled it, and here you can see location 1 and location 2 are now in my editable scene. So this is basically the start and end point for this platform. So I wanted to start here and end over here. Essentially, that's where I'm going to create the start and end point, which makes this is much easier than creating an animation with defined keyframes where it's only going to go to one position and the other, and then you have to create a unique animation for every single platform you make, right? So now really what I can do is grab another platform, bring it into my scene, which I'm going to place it over here. We'll do a couple of them. Because now I can place this one over here. We'll place it on top here. And you see this could be the starting point there. Or let's move this off to the side. Or even we'll just set it down below here. Like right there. So I could potentially fall off. That could be a starting point, but then I can also just grab one of these locators and slide it up and say, I want this thing to travel, say, up to here, right? So now it's the same moving platform, but I can edit those parameters so it can kind of do what I need it to do. So I do need one more variable I'm going to create right now for the duration. So right now, by default, this interp to movement is set at 1 second, which means it's going to bounce ping pong from each side in 1 second. So it's going to be a little bit fast. So I want a variable so I can control that speed and be editable with that as well. So I'm going to click on variable again, and this one I'm going to call duration. And we'll use it in just a moment. And we'll create a float here. So we just have a set number here. Okay, so here we go. So to start this out, the construction script, we have our interp to movement. Oh, I think before we do this, there's a couple things. There's a couple things I have to do, and I apologize. I have to remember everything here. Is in this interp to movement, we actually have to create control points to it. So I haven't created control points, so I have nothing to control yet. So I need to be able to attach these variables, these control points, to that interp to movement node. So on this, I'm going to create one here. So it has 2 members now. So let's see if that works now. Okay, so I'm having trouble seeing exactly what I needed out of those. Actually, let's try the interp movement. That might be what I need to set. Control points. There we go. Okay, so I need to grab it out of interp to movement and set control points right here. So there's a reset control points, set constraints. Let's find control points. Reset, set control points right down here under variable controls. So we have the set duration and the set control points. So we're going to click on that. That's what we wanted, right? And when this constructs, we want this to kick off, set those control points. I need to create an array for those. So let's see if I can pull location 1 and location 2. Actually, here's the way you do it. Let's say make array, because we want to pipe these control points into this section here. So we're going to make our array, pump it into here. I need to add a pin, bada bing, bada boom. So these will be our 2 control points. And let's see if we can find make interp control point right there, boom. So we have our first one for our first control point. You can see you could just put in a position, but we're not going to do that. And then this one is make interp control point. Beautiful. And now I'm going to take location 1, drop it right here on that bad boy. Location 2, drop it right here on this one, so that interp constant node knows exactly what to do. And then now I want to set the duration, right? So this one I need to set duration, which is our variable down below. We're going to set the duration. When that kicks off, it'll daisy chain. It'll set my locators. It'll set my duration. And I'm going to grab this duration node and pop it right into here. There we go. So this should be everything we need to get this working. Okay, so will this work? I don't know. I think it will. I think it will. I think we have all the makings of a movable platform. A little step-by-step direction. Anybody watching this can kind of rewatch and go through the system. We're going to compile this bad boy. And what's going to happen? What's going to happen when I hit play? It's anybody's guess. Where's that other locator at? I thought I moved this locator. There it is. It's over here. Okay, so I'm going to move my player character out of the way so it doesn't get hit by that. So I'm going to move him up on top of this platform here. Okay, and we'll hit play. Oh, look at that! Look at that. It's a thing of beauty. This is awesome. My platform is like jiggling. I don't know what that means, but look at that. It kind of, when I stand on it, my player goes, whoa, what's going on? So let's try and figure this out. And I can't jump off of it either. Awesome. Let's see what the other one's doing. Oh, it shot to the other side. I love it. It just makes sense. Okay. This one is not, it is kind of, oh, maybe it's moving so fast. So let's check out the duration on this. Maybe we can set a default on this bad boy. So if we look at the default variable for the duration, it's set to 0.0. Maybe that's the problem. I'm not sure. Let's set it to a more reasonable time. So let's just set the speed is, John Collart says the speed is crazy fast. So we're going to set this to maybe 5 seconds. We'll make it nice and slow. I actually, one of my pet peeves with early level design is really fast platforms. They drive me nuts. Normal speed is 24 frames per second. Let's try this. So I think the idea is that the duration, it'll move ping pong between them every 5 seconds, right? So let's hit play. Let's see, compile, save. And what's happening now? Look at that. Oh, snap. They're ping-ponging back and forth. 5 seconds feels pretty snappy here. And moving up and down at a reasonable speed now. So we're using that ping-pong node so it kind of bounces back and forth between these way stations. So the nuts and bolts, that is how you make a moving platform really simply, really quickly in Unreal. There are a million things we could do to this now to change and adjust and make it do a lot of different things. But I try to teach my classes and not overwhelm students with way too much. But I also like to teach that once you've kind of learned some basic principles of how to do something, we can then adjust it into something else. So just so I can show you, once you have an instance of this in your scene, that duration speed that I set up, I'm pretty sure I made that editable. There's my locations. So we should be able to, in here, just by selecting this platform, adjust the duration, which if I can't, I need to fix that. So let's look in here, this duration, speed. Oh, it's not visible. That was it. So I didn't make it instanceable. So by default, it's 5. I'm going to change that to instance and to see it in the blueprint. So now if I compile and save, if I click on either of these instances of that object in here, now you can see the duration is now an editable thing. So I can make this up and down one move at 10 seconds instead. And I can make this side-to-side version go 3 seconds if I want it to move very fast. I don't have to go in and create a new platform for that, right? So I can just hit play now. Bada bing, bada boom. Now that one's moving much faster. And this one over here should be twice as slow now. Yep. So you can see how powerful that is now, that I can create moving platforms throughout my entire level only using one instance of the exact same platform. So now I could have two pinging back and forth against each other. There's so many scenarios I could create just with this. But one of the things I wanted to go over is how to quickly create an enemy now, quickly out of this moving platform. So, so I'm going to hit escape. I'm actually going to move this one out of the way. Actually, I'm going to leave it where it is, but I'm going to move this locator up so it moves up a little bit higher. But so I want to create a quick little enemy. Basically, what's kind of nice about enemies that work really quick in prototyping, giving them a little movement actually brings life to the entire project. So I want to create an evil little enemy that's going to move back and forth on the ground underneath this existing platform. So what I'm going to do that is I'm just going to right click on this platform that I've already created. The code is already set up. I now know I have those locators set up so I can make it go back and forth. In regarding that, if you wanted to make the platform get bigger and smaller, you would just add to that. As far as like making the object scale, let's find out. I think you should be able to actually scale the platform itself, and that should be editable. Let's find out. So you can actually just scale it, that cube, and the other one stays exactly the same. Since it's an instance object, you can adjust the size and scale of it, which is pretty cool. So any shape changes you wanted to make, that is a part of that editable instance. So yes, Absolutely. I could have just left it at that basic cube size, but you find that kind of metric that you want to keep. We're going to recreate this platform now. We're going to create something new. So I'm going to duplicate this, and we're going to call it, we'll just call it object enemy. Let's call it enemy crawl. This is going to be our little crawler character. So we'll double click this bad boy, and you can see in our viewport right now we have that. I'm just going to delete that original platform. We're not going to use that. So I want to create a little bad enemy. And so I'm going to start with I'm going to add a component here. And we'll just add a cone. I want a cone. Where's a cone? I'll just start typing in cone. Because I want it to be spiky. I want it to be kind of scary. So we're going to add a cone here. And we're going to duplicate this cone. Rotate it. There we go. So that it really indicates that, hey, if you step on this thing, you're not going to have a great time. And we'll raise this up. We'll duplicate one more. And we can see if we may need to scale these. I don't know. I want the idea that this is kind of this little creature here crawling around. I've been playing a lot of Metroid Dread, so it kind of makes sense that there would be a creepy little creature. And one more component, we're going to grab a sphere. Bada bing, bada boom. We'll leave this where it is, actually. So we'll bring this down. Bring this over. And bring this over. All right, let's see how this looks. It's important to me that these cones look as scary as possible. All right, so let's grab our little enemy here. Let's compile and save. And let's throw it into the scene. All right, kind of huge, kind of a big enemy, but I kind of like it. We can always scale this down too. Yeah, I think he's too big. I'm gonna adjust him a little bit because I'm picky that way. Okay, let's scale these down to 0.75. 0.75. There we go. And what the heck, we'll just delete these because this is the size I want. Bear with me here. This is where the artistry comes in. Since this isn't in class anymore, class is like over. Oh, I actually renamed that to W. And that one's E. Fantastic. I love it. Since class is over, I can take as long as I want on this stuff. I don't have to worry about students getting bored and taking off and running away. Kind of makes my job easier here. Okay, so this looks scary to me. Looks kind of creepy. Come on, buddy. There we go. I like it. I'm starting to like it. Okay. Definitely wouldn't want to jump on that. Okay, so I also want this to be red. Oh, look at that. It's huge still. Scale the whole thing down. You know what? Whatever. We're going to leave it. We're going to leave it just like that. It just makes sense. We can always scale it down at post. Okay, so we're going to grab this and we're going to change. We're going to get a new color. I want something red. So we're going to change. We're going to make a duplicate of our material. And we're going to call it matte enemy red. Constraints. Here we go. We'll just color this nice red. Here we go. Boop, bada bing, bada boom. Oh, it's the wrong color. That's fine. I didn't push one of the buttons. We'll change the color in just a second. Oh my gosh. All right, now let's fix that color that I messed up. So enemy red. Oh, we didn't, did we not save it? Guess we didn't save it. There we go. Compile and save. Let's look at this in game. Let's run around. This is great. So we have this creepy little crawling dude here, and we want it to hurt you. So you can see right now it's not moving, but we do have these locator constraints here. The locators, we can do the same thing we did to the other one. So we're going to make it crawl back and forth because it's something we don't want to jump on, right? And now if we hit play again, you can see that it is crawling along the ground. Perfect. So now we can make duplicates of these. This enemy will crawl on the ground. So what we need to do is we need to make it so if you touch this guy, he resets the game. That's going to be the simplest approach, I think. So to do that, I need to make sure that this little dude has a nice trigger volume attached to him. I could probably just leave it as is, just with its existing collision, but we're going to give it a new collision. So I'm going to give it, by default, I'm going to select these guys and see if I can just, I can't remember if I can do this all at the same time, but I want to turn off their collision. So we're going to set the collision type to no collision on these objects, and I'm going to create a new collision sphere. Oops, I'm going to add component, sphere collision right there. Here's our sphere collision. I'm going to scale this up. Oh my gosh, I just named it R. I hate that I keep doing that. Drives me nuts. It's R. I have to rename it. Okay, there we go. Now let's scale this. There's our collision. We're going to make it nice and big. So make sure that if you touch this thing, it's going to take you out. It's dangerous. Okay. Compile and save. And then for the collision itself, select it. Collision overlapping all dynamic. That works. It'll overlap all dynamic. So right now, if we hit play again, you can see that, oh, that pushes you around. Kind of hard to even get hit by this thing, but right now you're just passing right through it. Doesn't look like anything. We want it to make you hurt. We want to make you restart the level. So this we're actually going to use the same tech from the coin pickup. Essentially, when you collected a coin, it destroyed itself and disappeared, but we want to do something a little bit different. So we're going to go back to our side scroller character, because that's what we want to look for. We want to look and check and see if our side scroll character has run into that enemy, and then we want to reset the level. So let's do that. Let's edit our side scroller character. Let's go into our event graph right here where there's not a whole ton of stuff, and we're going to create a very simple, very simple reset blueprint for this character. And so what we want is an event begin overlap, or actor begin overlap, actor begin overlap. We want to cast this to our enemy. What do we call that? Crawling enemy? Our enemy crawl. We're going to cast to our enemy crawl. And we want to look for that. That's our wildcard, is our object. And what we want to do is open a level. This is a simple way. We're going to do it by name. And our level is called Side Scroller Example Map because that's what we're using. So we're just going to change this name to Side Scroller. Side Scroller Example Map. Boom. Make sure that that's typed in correctly. And this should do the trick. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens, my friend. We'll see if this works. Hopefully it will. We'll compile that and save. And then maybe we'll do something a little extra to this too. But let's hit play. And we just want the level to reset if it touches. And boom, it resets your level. And we restart at the beginning like you should. We're going to kind of piggyback onto this tech next week to build out some checkpoints. But I kind of wanted to do something else. I want to kind of like at least have a little bit of visual feedback when you touch that enemy. So by default in the starter pack, we can use some particle emitters, some explosion and sound. So we're going to set that up. So before that happens, so there's a little bit of a delay. So it'll kind of kick off an explosion, a delay, and then reset the game, so that it's not as abrupt here. This is kind of the juice that you at least can set up a little bit of, even in the prototyping stage, to make it feel a little bit more juicy, I guess. So we're going to go back to our this section here. So we're looking for the overlap when it casts to the enemy crawl. Before we have this kick off, we want it to do a little bit of something else. So we're going to have it... let's see, what do we want to do? This has not been planned at all. We want it to spin. We wanted to spit off a spawn an emitter, right? So let's spawn an emitter at location. Bada bing, bada boom. Location. Let's see if we can get player location. Get actor location. Maybe that'll work. So that it kicks off from our player. There we go. Get actor location. Here we are. Boom. We'll try this. So this is the emitter. Let's look for an explosion. So that'll kick off. After the explosion, we want it to play a sound. So we're going to spawn in a sound 2D. And by default, we're going to choose an explosive sound as well. Explosion 1 or Explosion 2, we could choose either. And we're going to pipe this into a location here. I said spawn sound 2D. What we actually want to do is spawn sound at location. I messed that up. And then, okay, let's see what happens here. So this should just play the sound. We've detached the open level. So every time I enter this, it should explode. I'm going to move this out of the way real quick. Okay, so here we go. Oh, snap. See that every time I touch it? That's kind of cool. Every time I touch him now, it kicks off a little explosion. And it should be kicking off a sound too, but I can't hear it for some weird reason. But it's kind of doing what we want it to. So it's doing what we want it to. We're taking baby steps through this process. But now we want it to reset the player. We're going to set up a little bit of delay. So we want to give the chance for that explosion and that sound to play. Which, let me see, was my sound just not working? No, my sound is working. Why isn't this sound playing? At location. Select, oh, I didn't select an asset. It's okay, so let's grab Explosion 1. We didn't grab our sound, that was a problem. So after it spawns a particle effect and then spawns our sound, we then want this bad boy to delay. So we're gonna create a little bit of a delay. All right. So, and we're going to guess. So right now it's set at 0.2. So 0.2 seconds. We're going to change that. Let's try a half a second. Maybe that's too long. Maybe it's too short. We'll find out. And then we'll pipe that into our open level by name. And this is just adding a little bit more fluff, a little more juice to our little enemy here. The simplest little enemy in the world. He's just running around back and forth. Okay, and to start off, I'm actually sick of this guy. I'm going to delete him altogether. We can always put a new platform in. But now we're kicking off our game. We're walking along, and there's my enemy. I hit it. Yeah, that's better. I think for a prototype, that's not too bad. Is there a name for this game? Yes, it's called Unreal Side-Scroller Demo Game. So essentially, I know we have a lot of people popping into this. I teach a level design course for the University of Utah. And actually, I had a lecture earlier today on 2D side-scroller games, which could be 2D or 3D, regardless, side-scroller games in general. And so the next step of the process is my students are going to take 2 weeks to block out a 2D level. And we're starting with the basic 2D side-scroller template that Unreal Engine has. And so today I'm just going over adjusting your camera, creating a simple platform that is editable, instanced and editable, and creating a very simple enemy prototype. So basically they don't have to worry as much about the code, and they can build something cool. And they will be bringing their first passes next week to playtest with the students and myself, and then turning it in 2 weeks later. Well, we'll probably do a stream playing some of the creations that my students have made. So let's see, what are we going to do here? So we run around. This guy's still killing us. That's fantastic. I kind of like that. It's good enough for now. Probably am just about done. The nice thing is now that I've created this little enemy, so let's say just for fun, so I can see where this locator goes up to here, where a new platform is. So now I can say that maybe we'll just adjust this a little bit, and we're gonna get rid of that one altogether. That maybe this one up here, that platform brings me up to here. And then maybe I want to get across to this side. I'm just spitballing some stuff out here. We're not taking this too seriously. And then I'm going to create another moving platform out here. So not much jumping involved. We'll have it go straight from one side to the other. We basically have created some components where we can do almost anything we want at this point. So let's take this locator. This is by default, we have this set at a duration of 5 seconds. Did that grab a locator? Okay, so now we can just grab this locator, drag it across. It's going to take you the platform from this side, and we'll get rid of that goober too. And we'll bring us back on over to here. And maybe what we'll do is we'll say the finish line maybe is over here for the moment. And as the final little challenge here, we're going to put one of these little boogers ping-ponging back and forth on this guy. The thing that we could do now is, like, if you're thinking this is kind of like a Metroid style game, is really this little Yahoo could be doing several things. Put one locator over here and one over here. He could be on the ceilings. He could be on the side of the walls. You could rotate him and do almost anything. RipChip3 says, thoughts on Unity? Unity's awesome. I'm not as familiar with it. So I spent 8+ years as a level designer working for Disney Interactive. And I am used to the visual scripting. So the game engine we used on all the Disney games was very similar to Unreal. And so, yeah, I believe Unity uses C#, and it's very coding intensive. So engineers love it because they can iterate and prototype really quickly. I believe they're coming out with a full scripting system similar to Blueprints, but I have not. I've jumped into it just a little bit. Okay, so let's see how this quick little scenario plays out. Now that we have a couple different platforms, these little dangerous dudes, we're kind of taking this easy. So now we can jump over that guy because he'll kill you every time. And here we have this little platform that will scooch me on up slowly ever so slowly. You like the Peppa Pig art? I'm a pro at drawing Peppa Pig. Okay, we'll scooch you up there. We can jump across to here. Now we're going to make our way across our platform. We're telling a real narrative here. This is the bare bones. But you can see the thing I wanted to show off to my students here is just by creating a platform, just by creating one little enemy that will kill you or reset you or set you back to a checkpoint. Really, though, that's the rough nuts and bolts that you can really tell a narrative story with some gameplay on it. I think I wouldn't even mind moving my camera back a little further. But now we have this little puzzle here where now I have to time my jump a little bit to try and not hit this guy and jump to the finish line. There we go. All right, my beautiful friends. So it is well past midnight for this old boomer, and I have to wake up early to do some more teaching in the morning. I'll be covering this stuff again tomorrow night in a level 9 design class. So much like anything else, through repetition, you learn how to do things faster, quicker, better, stronger. And I'll be doing it again. I'd like to thank everyone who hopped in to keep me company while I was recording these demos for my students. 3, 2, 1. Everybody have an awesome night. We will chat with you soon.